And this is a person who worked for me. Then I had high hopes for this person.
What do you think? When you enter such a business, when will it become completely passive?
Hire good people, train them, educate them, and create a strong team.
There is a lot of advertising now, and they talk about it on the internet and so on. Passive income. How do you position your business? Active or passive?
In 2023, 2024, almost nothing changed. Well, I was almost ready to close everything and just go do something else. That's it.
After an hour, when you return to the station to home, you don't think.
Less than 1%, probably 0.5%. And now it will be around 8%.
Passive income is something elusive, distant, and you have to work very hard and long to achieve it.
Hello everyone. And today we have a very interesting broadcast because we have Vlad Horenko as our guest. And this is a person who used to work for me. Then I had high hopes for this person, but he left me and went to do building painting. He didn't like plumbing. And then she didn't like painting buildings and she went into the FedEx franchise. What questions do you have for me today?
Hello, dear ones. I'm very pleased with how you introduced me, the person who left me on this podcast.
And I had hopes that Vlad, a young guy, I would teach him now and he would be a great assistant for me. We all place hopes on someone, but they don't come true.
But I'll tell you, you gained more. You gained a great friend, not an employee. I thank you for inviting me to this podcast. It's a pleasure for me. I'll tell you this, that probably this podcast will be interesting, I hope, because I know you and we will have questions, that are more relevant probably to you. What I've heard, there were general ones about adaptation. Let's go a bit deeper, Let's talk about, my first question to you is this. Go ahead. You mentioned you have 3 million, that's what everyone says. 3 million is your level. What is your net income? Or just tell me the percentages.
Net income. For this year, the figures aren't available yet, as of now, which has ended.
Let's say 23.
Last year, my net income was 60,000. What percentage is that? In 2023. That's less than 1%. 20% in 2023 is less than 1%, which is significantly lower than...
Why am I asking? At FedEx, we also have a large revenue, everything sounds great. But in the end, when you calculate, there's a small net income. And many Ukrainians who come here, they ask, well, what is your return? How much money you return? What is your net income or what is your margin? And when I say 10 to 15% is great, how is it that in Ukraine it's 25 or 30%? What do you say to that?
In reality, actually, 15% is among the top performers, 10% is great, less than 10% is bad. This year, if I'm not mistaken, the figures will be around 8%. I'm not reaching 10% this year. Not reaching 10% this year. But again, it's important to understand that this is the company's profit. There is money that will go into business development, into advertising. A lot of money goes into ensuring the business develops. For example, if I said, that's it, I'm not developing, I want to earn as much money as possible this year, I wouldn't need to invest in development. For you, FedEx, you don't need to invest a lot in development.
Well, like cars, as well as employees, managers.
No, but I also have cars, employees, and managers.
You don't need ads, right?
But advertising, branding, there are many things that need to be done, which you don't do at FedEx. That's why there are a lot of expenses. And since this business is unstable, you come in, they give you the rules and say, here are your rules, and do it like this, and like this. Depending on how you manage as a manager, your revenue depends on it. If you do your job better, you earn 1 or 2% more. If worse, 1 or 2% less. But you can't have a lot of ups or a lot of downs or grow 3 times in a year. You understand? Or you can't double in a year.
Everything is calculated. You meet at the rivers how much you will get.
And your management knows how much you are supposed to earn. Your earnings depend on your managerial qualities.
And God forbid you earn more. How do you position your business? Active or passive? Perhaps you might like to ask?
Active.
So you're participating in the business now? Des and Zylis, how many hours do you think you are spending on the business at the moment? Well, in 2024, considering how 2023 developed, 2022 and so on, and in 2024, you probably think your business has improved a bit, right?
You tell me. The year 2023 was the hardest year of my entire life. It was so difficult that if I had to start a business again, I'm not sure I would get up.
And I would have gone to work at FedEx.
Well, it was very tough. I was almost ready to close everything and just go do something else. I almost gave up. And the 24th, because I'm alone and it's very hard for one person. At the end of the 23rd, at the beginning of the 24th, the children went to school and my wife came and started helping me with the business. So, another pair of hands, another head. She took over some of the hiring of people, other issues, and it became easier. Our goal for 2024 was to hire good people, train them, and build a team. And this year we plan to grow. That is, our revenue for 2023-2024 has almost not changed. The revenue is almost the same. The earnings in 2024 are higher because it's almost 8%. There was 1%, less than 1%, maybe 0.5%, and now it will be 8%.
And how much time do you, on average, dedicate to the business?
I try to dedicate a little less. In 2024, it was probably about 10-12 hours.
Well, is that per day or per week? Per day? Per day. Is this in 2024?
Yes.
When do you think you'll likely reach a point where maybe your business will be completely passive?
When I personally, as a person and a leader, grow to that level.
Well, do you have any plans or goals?
I have plans. We are working. I have a business consultant. Helena, with whom we are working, she helps. But everything depends on my speed, ability to control, delegate, and work on it. My task for this year is to free myself and set up the system. Because there is no system that works on its own yet. I am involved in many aspects. For example, I am like a field supervisor now. Partly I am sales, I am marketing, I handle many other issues. You understand? And I cover a lot of things myself, and I don't have time to properly set up each of these directions. So now, there are people who have come to me, helping me in this office, and we are moving forward with the goal to grow this year. We plan to make about 4.5 million this year. I want to grow top, and at the same time, systematize the business a bit, and set it up so that it already works, so there is already a system.
Thank you. The reason I'm asking about this, there's a lot of advertising now and talk on the internet. Passive income, you know, and it has become such a trend. But I have realized passive income is elusive and distant, plus good people. I'm glad you're recording a podcast to show achieving passive income and building your business requires more than just being an employee.
You know, there's a very popular meme on the internet where the worker is working like this, you know. Then the manager works less. And the boss gets all the money sitting and doing nothing.
I don't know how it's explained yet.
Business owner, what say this?
When someone comes up to you and says, I've overworked, it's so hard for me, I'm burned out, you think, then where should I be if you're burned out?
For example, the question is, when you were an employee and worked for me, and when you became a business owner, where did you work more, as an employee or as a business owner?
You know, how does it work for me? My task is, I am the acting director in our corporation, and I am fully engaged in more demanding work. And I had a period when I would sit down myself and do the routes, meaning you drive, you deliver packages. And I'll tell you, it's such a pleasant time when you're driving. You put on headphones and you just go and deliver packages.
Just enjoying it.
Why? You know, I see it as a driver. You arrive not thinking about the car because it's ready for you. You drive, deliver packages, and return. After a certain hour, when you return to the station, you go home, you don't think. And sometimes it happens to me that someone hasn't returned. They call, the car is loaded, the car, you know, often gets stuck in the driveway or something else. And you work until night, you manage the situation, you know, you call the mechanic, call the managers, and try to sort it out somehow. And you realize that you're constantly stressed and worried, you know.
FedEx is a unique situation among immigrants because most go into construction. I went into construction and people come who are more familiar. FedEx is something like that. And how did you get there? But when you worked as a painter, you had your own painting business. How long did you work then?
You also stress about work. When you're doing work now, you think, okay, I have 4 to 5 guys, I have to think about the next job. You know, because when you're working for yourself, for example, you do it once, earn well, and then wait for the next job. Here you have guys, and either they will leave if there's no work, or you constantly, let's say, even while painting, think about the next job, take calls to keep the guys busy, to make a schedule, and then you wonder if you'll earn anything from all this, you know, or not. because you want to build it so that it runs steadily.
Your question about a passive exit, a person who has successfully built a quality system and the business is running and everything is set up, only checks the indicators, watches, ensures everything is going correctly without any imbalances, then they can relax or they sell the business and buy some real estate, although there is plenty of hassle there too. There is no business without headaches. These are investments, good investments. But to invest well, you first need to earn well. And to earn well, you need to work not only with your hands, but also with your head.
Have you lost faith in such passive income? Or do you still believe it's possible, but it's harder to achieve than you previously thought?
And in reality, passive income, what will you do? For example, you sold a business and received 10 million.
No, that's a completely different form. Passive income is when, let's say, you claim 10% is brought to you by the business. You have managers who fully manage all the processes, and you, as you say, only check the reports at the end of the week or at the end of the month, and just, participate in.
No, that's not passive income. That's not passive income. You are in the business, you are involved in the development of the business. Because if you are not involved in the development of the business, it will completely decline. Your team will not develop your business.
Define passive income for you.
Passive income is when you have invested in a project that you receive dividends and you have no idea what's happening there. You don't think about it? I don't think about it at all. That's passive income. Passive income, when you have a business, is never passive income at all. Passive income can be partially passive income when you have real estate. You hand it over to a management company that rents it out and you just receive money every month. But again, until a crisis, until some moment where you can lose everything or something else, you rent it out, for example, 10 houses. Somehow you bought 10 houses, you rent them out, you receive $10, $15, $20,000 from them, and they are paid off and you don't worry about it. Then that's passive income for you. They are rented out, now you don't worry about anything, and you live until the end of your retirement. It's enough for you. You won't earn a lot, but you won't fall low either.
So in your case, in the service business, it's unrealistic to set up passive income.
Oh.
Okay, good. Thank you for that answer. We talked about how much you earned. You said 8%, and we understood that there are many personal things related to your home, family matters, car, and so on. Do you write off taxes for the business, or do you file taxes separately? Sorry, let me interrupt. Now people are starting to write online, especially those who arrived this year, 2024, about taxes. How do they file? When do they file? If you have your own LLC, why do you need it? What's more interesting? If you have a 1099, how do you write it off? This is an interesting topic. Maybe we should touch on it.
The issue, for example, when you work as an employee is a big downside, especially in California, where everything is said to be for the people, for the workers. But they are the ones who are squeezed the most, first and foremost. An employee is a W-2 form. Yes, an employee under a W-2. That means you earned money, paid taxes, and then spent what you needed. For example, as a business owner, I earned money, paid all expenses, and from what was left as net income, I paid taxes. For example, I can't write off the groceries I buy for home. But I can partially write off rent because I have an office in the house I rent, and legally I can write it off. The car I drive, I use it to commute to work, for work, and back home. The only day I drive for personal reasons is on Sunday to church, or in the evening with the kids to go out. 98% of the time, I drive for work purposes. It's a work vehicle, and all expenses for this car, they are written off. I don't pay tax on them. When you buy a car for yourself, you first pay the tax, and then you pay for the car and everything else. So there's a big saving in this.
Have you heard about such shelters, perhaps tax shelters? Do you use any of them?
When I earned 1% last year, there's no need.
For 2024?
No, but it's there. I need to calculate depreciation because I bought cars and everything else. When I calculate depreciation, my percentage might be much lower. The numbers just aren't ready. I'm not ready to answer at the moment.
And what do you think about them in general? Let's say, well, here, how important it is in California and in America to reach a certain tax bracket. So there are 3 tax brackets, up to 80,000 if you're married, up to 120,000. The numbers might vary by 1,000 or 2, and from 120 and above. That is You pay this tax bracket in percentages, 12, 22, and 33%. 22, 33%. So your task is to fit into the smallest tax bracket and also earn the least personally to pay less in taxes. And if, for example, you have your own business, say construction or various services, and you earn $200,000, it turned out that you have a net profit of $200,000. How do you think people can save more of this money? Do you have any such life hack? I'm talking about legal things now.
I understand. Yes, look, my business is 3 million, but officially I have never legally earned 200,000 in a year. How should I answer you on this? Medicom, because most earnings return to business. They are earned and go into the business. They are earned and go into the business. So I only take for living expenses.
So this comes naturally for business development. For business development, artificially to pay less tax?
No, it's natural for business development. I need to develop the business. In order for it to grow and expand, well, I need to invest the earned money because it's the company's money that I have. And I separate my personal matters carefully and responsibly. I pay myself a W-2 to ensure financial stability for the future and growth of the company and my family as well. My wife works, we pay W-2, and we live solely on that money.
Do you have a corporation or an LLC?
Corporation.
Corp requirement, pay W-2 to owners?
Yes.
Okay, next question. Thank you for your answer. What would you, for example, advise?
Many people buy a car that weighs more than 6,000 pounds because it can be written off for tax purposes and other financial benefits. For example, large cars, SUVs, why do they buy them? Because they are heavy. And this allows for a bigger write-off. So you buy, you have class, because you can either pay that money in taxes or buy a car. So you pay, but you save a lot of money because you bought a car, you paid less in taxes, and part of that money went towards driving a cool new car.
Or let's say a hydrojet, you say, for example, you need to buy some kind of tool. Equipment, yes. And you, let's say at the end of the year, you see, okay, I earned and I need to pay. So it's better for me to purchase some.
A lot of things like that. Yes, yes. I think that next year I will already have plans for this. That is, I understand that this is necessary. Planning, budgeting. We have now reached the budget stage, started working on the budget. Because there was such a story. I meet with friends. And at that time, my turnover was 1.5, 2 million, something like that. And there's another guy who is in business. He sits there and asks, what's your average check? And I say, I don't know. I really didn't know. They were like, yeah, talker, what, 1.5, 2 million? How can it be 1.5, 2 million and not know what it is? The average check. But there was so much work. I was just working and pulling the business along. I really didn't have time to look at the average check. I understand that if I had more free time, I would analyze and do all that. My business would probably be doing better because I would be running it more efficiently. But at that moment, paying people their salaries so that everyone had work, you know, everyone was busy, and you're just spinning, spinning, spinning like in a wheel. And as a result, you don't know what your average check is. And then there's this chatterbox, you know, who talks about it. It happens. Yes, it happens.
Because people believe, you know, they'll hire that company, do it, that analytics company, and so on, and then I'll sit on top, manage everything, and make a lot of money. Yes, it doesn't work like that. And now, you know, many people, when they come to America and let's say they look at some service business or any other business, they look at some form of business like a corporation and so on. And looking at them, they understand that they have to comply, well, with the regulations. It's called compliance in America, meaning you need a certain license and so on. Let's say keeping accounts and so on, and people are afraid of this. Tell me, well, give some advice to people on what to do, to not be afraid. Or for example, certain apps that you use, I don't know, for accounting or that remind you when to fill out a form, let's say some kind of annual report or so.
First and foremost, there are accountants, ours, with whom you can speak in your native language and understand what's happening. And they might not even be in California. That is, you can find a person in a completely different state who has a license or doesn't have a license, but knows the laws and works in that state. And it will be quite cheap there, and they will advise and guide you. This will cost you, say, 1,000 per year. Maybe 500 per year if it's just a little. In general, if you're doing just a little bit, you can use QuickBooks where you can upload, track miles, and do various things. There are programs that help you track miles where you go, and then you can officially deduct these miles. So it saves a lot. But when you're on a W-2, you can't deduct this. Miles, when it's officially provided by the state. Why? We might say with our intellect, yes, it's like a trick, right? I'm not really. In fact, the state provides this opportunity for you to develop and grow your business. So they understand that it's kind of, like, well, it can be used in two parts. For example, during COVID, the IRS allowed 100% of meals to be deducted. Before that, it was 50%. Restaurants, completely. So you go to a restaurant with your wife, maybe with someone else, and you can deduct it completely. After this year ends, next year it won't be possible. But if you have a business meeting, you need to write a letter, there's an opportunity to deduct completely as well. 100% restaurants. But if you go and talk about business, if it's a business lunch is officially considered if, what are our numbers this month? With your wife, it's already a business lunch, we discuss business. Well, you understand? I mean, you said two words about business, right? It's like a scheme. From some, yes, but it's small money, but it motivates a person to develop. So actually it's cool from the state, such things. An opportunity, like to get something a little, somehow. I don't know how to say it.
Bonus.
Such a bonus from the state, yes. And it encourages going into business. That is, it encourages engaging in business. If it weren't there, then why? What's the same there? What's the same there? Why do I need more headaches? Because you work more than on a W-2 when you work for yourself. You earn much more, not always as much or more. Not always. But there is a likelihood that out of 20 people, one will become a great businessman and provide jobs for 20, 30 people. Therefore, the state helps with such small things so that you can develop, and in a surge, someone emerged with a large company. Because there were such opportunities returning to compliance from where we started.
So when you start your business, you worry about doing everything legally and correctly. Because, well, fear, you understand. First of all, those who come through you for you and so on, they fear being deported if something is not done right. You know the fears our people have. And for example, when our people start a business, what would you advise, let's say, to start a business in construction, whether it's plumbing or even painting, for example, and start without a license and obtain the license over time? Or is it worth focusing on getting the license first and then moving forward? Move forward, develop the business.
First, suggest joining a company doing this and working there for a while to gain experience, grasp.
If you know how to do it and you've decided, okay, I have, let's say, my own sprayer that I can use to shape and I want to start a park business. I don't have a license, but I'm going. What should be done in this case? Stop, go back, get a license? Or should I move forward and get the license in the process?
My important point is that there is the letter of the law and there is the spirit of the law, right? And there was such a case in New York when our people came, our people worked, and the restaurant owner, after about a week of work, he said, and this was before COVID, before all of this, he said, well, you're kind of illegal, goodbye, I'm not going to pay you anything, what are you going to do to me, They went to court, filed a lawsuit against him, he came to court, he says, yes, they broke the law, but you committed a crime, like a crime.
Violated, indeed.
That is, they violated work regulations, but you committed a criminal act because you didn't pay them for their work. That is, regardless of the fact that the person worked with cash, they did the work. The one who eats must earn, that is, survive. And that's normal. And that's why the state, if you go, for example, to projects, there was a story about handymen, though. In Florida, they are arresting all the handymen. And peak, that's it. Handyman work is over. Handymen are being arrested, and that's it. Of course, because they went after the hurricane. After the hurricane and storm, it is prohibited for companies without a license to work. That is, the state is protecting people so they are not deceived, because they lost their property. Now someone will come and tell them something, they will pay them money, they will take it, and the person will lose money again. That's why the state intervenes and specifically prohibits doing this work. So when the hurricane passed, and the handymen went there to do work, they were of course arrested. Because this is a direct violation of the law, it was. That is, they specifically control all of this. If you do a small job, by the way, in California, they raised it to $1,000 now from the client. In the year 25 and 25, start of 25, $1,000. And it was $100, right? Now it's $750. When I arrived, it was $350 10 years ago, then $500, $750, now $1,000.
Per day, if you do one job a day?
Per day from the client, yes. Work with stuff.
So one invoice, right?
Yes. Yes, you can do work for 2 or 3 clients a day for $3,000. Legally,
And you need to get a handyman license.
Up to $1,000, no, more than $1,000. Yes, legally, but again, yes, we return to the spirit of the law. The owner can hire a person, but it will be his responsibility for hiring that person. You cannot do things that require permits, various things, so you cannot do that. But the state does not interfere, chase, or control people who do these jobs because there are so many of them. There are a lot of people. A friend of mine started a plumbing business, drain cleaning, repair. We started around the same time. He got his license a year ago. He had 8 or 6 people, and he worked without a license. He had vehicles covered with advertisements, and he worked all the time without a license. There is a possibility that they might catch him, arrest him. There was an acquaintance here in San Diego. This was more than 10 years ago when he came to give an estimate for laminate flooring. Well, it was a big job, a major remodel. So there was a major remodel, and he came to give a high estimate. When he gave the price, the lady, she says, maybe some juice water offers everything, while he's giving the price. And after you state the price, 2 guys with badges come out, handcuff him, take him to the garage where there are already 10 others like him sitting.
Wow.
Well, I think it cost him $800 back then, 10 years ago.
And now what do you think it would cost?
I don't know. I've never heard of this happening in San Diego. If I'm not mistaken, the budget for dealing with handymen who do more there is, I think, $1 million a year. And what is $1 million for the state for these 3 people working? Well, in the department.
Can be done in California.
No, in San Diego. I heard in San Diego that the budget for the department that deals with handymen who make more than $1,000, that is, it can be done after natural
disasters,
storms, etc., and so on. No, it is strictly prohibited. Strictly prohibited.
So let's say in Los Angeles we have...
Handymen can't do anything there. Well, I wouldn't go there as a handyman because it will be serious there. It will be very serious there because it's a serious violation of the law.
Okay, thank you. Let's summarize the issue about licenses now. So let's say you both advise and don't advise. To start a business and work without a license, but at the same time obtain a license, right?
Yes. My personal question. I started a business without a license. I had the question of whether to return, work on the floor, go with the family, live under a roof because there was nothing to pay the rent with, or to start working for myself. Well, sort of. I don't go to the state and say, give me money, I have nothing to live on, I will go and work. And the state is okay with it, meaning it understands that you are feeding your family. No one will say, just sit at home and receive benefits. We are not in Germany. In Germany, it would be a different story. In America, it is liberal. There is a law, it's more about the spirit of the law. You provide for your family, you haven't caused anyone any problems, so you are not a fraud. I believe that this $1,000 is more if you are some kind of fraud and did something that could get you prosecuted under this law. When you messed up, caused a lot of trouble and left, and then they say you don't have the right to do this, and they prosecute you, retroactively. It's more like for such things so that people understand that there is a limit, some rules, norms that control them. But it's not such a taboo that you can't do it at all.
What is a license needed for?
A license is needed to do advertising. That is, you can't do advertising without a license, although an acquaintance did. Yes, for example, on Google, on Yelp, everywhere you need a license. You can't confirm it. The platforms, see you can't develop, you can't build a business. You can work alone, have an assistant, a second one, but you can't build a business without a license. You can take a person who has a license and give them 20% of your company. This is called a responsibility manager officer. And then this person is responsible and you develop the business. That's how it was in my case. That is, I didn't have the English to apply for a license. I didn't have a license. I started developing the business because there was a person with a license who joined this company. He was its founder. We just re-registered everything to me. And that's how we worked.
Are you dispelling the myths? It's very difficult to get a license? Or is it true? That's
If you don't know English at all, then it's difficult. But I know a person whose English is very poor. He went and took the test 6 or 8 times, but he passed.
You passed first try?
I successfully passed on the first try.
Did you prepare a long time?
Week.
So it's possible.
Well, I booked a hotel for a week, turned off my phones, went to the hotel, Well, I studied a little, bit by bit, but I understand that I came to take the exam. But you work, right? Busy, there was no time. Turned everything off. Because if I don't pass the license exam the first time, I lose it. I don't have time for a retake. I lose the business and have to start everything over. That means I'll be banned everywhere, blocked, and everything will start over. I didn't have a chance. Because the license holder died, 90 days were given. From the moment he died, I submitted the documents while they reviewed them, scheduled an appointment. I went through all of it. I tried to prepare a bit, but there was no time. I was reading trade materials, filling out something, and I wanted to... There was a person who translated for me the law. Because I didn't understand the term logic, he would translate, and I responded. But when the time came, she wasn't approved for translation. And I was like, I hadn't really prepared much, just reviewed a bit. I spent 3.5 days. Troy is exposed in varnish, 12:30 deep. I went and passed the senior level once, and then I studied for 3.5 hours. There were questions that I didn't understand. I met with people who understand accounting, all those questions. And I went through asking questions 150 times until I understood. That is, I didn't just memorize, but I understood how it works. Then, when I saw the questions, because they are asked differently, when you understand the process of how it happens, you answer them correctly. That is, he translated for me, he explained to me, I understood the words, I understood what they meant, the key words, and I understood how it works. And when I understood how it works, I went and passed.
Last question. I understood. It's time. What advice would you give to people who are currently filing taxes, who have their own businesses, let's say, have opened an LLC or corporations? Some advice, let's say, on how to possibly make it easier, or on the contrary, to avoid getting into trouble, to make it easier. For understanding, for people.
You're talking about theoretical things because you're talking about a person who started their business and is earning 200,000. That's impossible.
I'll say this, a person in their second or third year, well, I'll say this, there are such people. It's possible. There are people who ask this question. And let's say when you buy a car, when you need a car. When you buy a car, it goes as you write it off on taxes. Or, I don't know, invest it further into the development of the business. Or I know there are people, for example, who understand that they earned a lot this year. Next, he doesn't plan to earn that much. Well, let's say there can be many different circumstances. This year he buys, let's say, a truck, a nice one. It counts as an expense, and next year he sells it. And it gets recorded. And let's say next year he will pay less in taxes than when he earned more. Due to the fact that he earned less.
Everyone has their own individual moments like these. There are a lot of them. That's why it's better to talk to a professional here. If I were a professional CPA, I would be giving recommendations right now. We make enough of our own mistakes to be repeating others. When there is a licensed person who knows this and they do it professionally, and you ask them, right? Well, you don't go to a surgeon to get a massage or to a masseur to have surgery. You understand? So I'm not a professional tax expert. You go to a CPA, right? And you go to a CPA, yes. There are basic questions. Open QuickBooks, register, enter your expenses, take receipts, photograph them, save all your receipts. You manage all the accounting, but in the end you go to a CPA and they recommend you to do this or that. It's advisable to have all the figures for the month by the end of the year, because now the year has ended.
That's it, yes, all issues are closed.
All issues are closed. Everything that happened on paper happened as it did.
Then let's give some advice to people who are just starting their tax year, like the 25th year. I don't know, maybe they should record their expenses correctly so as not to get caught off guard.
Start a notebook, take photos, keep receipts, because they need to be stored for 5 or 7 years. All receipts, invoices, everything. Look at what you can deduct, what you cannot. What can you write off as a business expense? Can you deduct part of your home, because that's also a business expense? Is it more beneficial for you to deduct miles? Or the car immediately, to do depreciation or deduct miles? So which option is better for you? That is your business, your situation, your model, where you are heading, how quickly you are developing. But your CPA will give you these answers because they know your numbers, they know what's happening with you, and they understand the situation. They will provide the right direction to move forward. Because I might say something, but the person has a completely different situation, and it should have been done the opposite way. Well, that's why you have to be very, very careful here. The whole internet says do it this way, and that way it works. It's individual. Taxes are such intimate things. You are right, you are right.
That is, they are feared. Here they are not as afraid of the police as they are of the IRS.
Yes, but the IRS gets involved when you're already at 357 million, then you're interesting to the IRS. If you're small, I see, this is my personal observation, how you do taxes, how it works. That is, there are 10 commandments. That is, there is a computer that checks your taxes, people don't read them. It's unrealistic. How many taxes are filed in America? What kind of state would it have to be to check them all? So, it's all checked by a computer. If you don't go beyond the limits in the computer system, it lets you through. You see, that's why you need to keep your taxes perfectly. Everything 100% correct, you won't be able to fill them out. Well, you know, to account for every penny, and the IRS doesn't require that. Well, I'm not supposed to say that out loud. I mean, we all have to, well, you do your utmost. I personally do my utmost. As much as possible, I gather everything, so that everything matches, everything is correct, everything aligns. I mean, you know, without any shady dealings, without that. That is to do everything as correctly as possible. So you do this, submit it, the system checks everything, and it all goes through. If someone issued to you and you missed it, there's a form called 1099. And if you did work for someone, they issued it to you stating that they paid you. And he was supposed to pay in cash, but he issued this form to you. And if you just showed that you earned, for example, $30,000, but a 1099 was issued to you for $31,000, you will definitely be audited. Because that's impossible. How can someone say they paid you $31,000 and you claim you earned $30,000? That doesn't happen.
Okay, thank you for your input. It was a pleasure. Yes, indeed. I hope this will be useful to people.
I hope so too. My goal is to communicate with immigrants. Their experiences, the issues they face are important. If you have such questions, thousands of other immigrants in America have the same questions.
I hope so. Good luck to everyone.
And we'll see you in the next video. By the way, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Give a like, leave a comment, it's very important.